Greetings, everyone. Curtain Red 64 is here. I'm uploading this on Veterans Day, and today we'll be talking about my first ever SpongeBob SquarePants episode I ever watched when I was younger, The Great Patty Caper. Better late than never. So, what is the Great Patty Caper exactly? So, if you guys don't know, this episode... So, let me give you guys a story of how this episode was marketed as. This episode had an alternative promo name called Mystery with a Twistery. And in the promos, in the promos that they were hyping this up like a mystery train theme episode. And it also was a special, too. And basically this episode turned out to be a 22-minute special, basically. And this episode got a lot of promotional material, like books, DVD release, and a flash game and TV marathon, like a usual SpongeBob special does. So basically this episode was marketed so heavily and had a lot of promotional material. Though the DVD release didn't came out until March 8th, 2011. So yeah, it took a while for them to release this episode on DVD because nowadays they don't even release any more compilation DVDs, standalone DVDs that have like 8 or 6 or even 8 or 7 episodes on DVD exact. So yeah, I think that's it for the whole story of how this episode was marketed. Now, what's my personal story with this episode? You see, after I was born, and when I went back home, my mom decided to put me in a crib, and after all that, after all those details, she decided to make my room a SpongeBob theme room. And at first I was like thinking, what was my mom doing? But then she turned on the TV, and basically she had on-demand service, and basically the most recent episode at the time was, of course, the Great Patty Caper episode. And so is Earworm and Abrasive Side. But we'll get to those two episodes when I review them, honestly, on Thanksgiving. But anyway, so she put on the Great Patty Caper, and then she walked out of the room and put the remote on the table in my room. And also this takes place in Pennsylvania, so this is where I used to live. I live in Florida now, but like I said, this story takes place in Pennsylvania, so this is a backstory. So after 22 minutes of television later, after 22 minutes later, I smiled, honestly, as a baby, because I found this to be I really liked it, honestly. So I had to have my mom play the next 2 episodes of Abrasive Side and Earworm on TV. And after watching those episodes, I was interested to see what the show would do next, honestly. And I decided to go on my computer and play the SpongeBob Flash. So I was a baby anyway, so this kind of takes place when I was a baby. So I decided to crawl out of my crib and go to the table with a chair. And I decided to search up Nickelodeon.com. And I forgot to mention that my recording of the Great Patty Cape the recording of the Great Patty Caper was recorded by my mom in November, so she got to watch the episode first airing. Lucky mom, lucky my mom. Anyway, so what happened? So what happened next? You may be asking. So what happened next is that I stayed after those 3 episodes. I decided to check out more season 7 episodes at the time. I decided to check out Welk Attack, Welk Attack, the masterpiece, the masterpiece, and also I decided to check out Itanic Tiki Dreams and Buried in Time, and so as Krusty Dogs and the Rekka Maloa. And after watching all these episodes, this got me interested into the entire franchise at the time. I went a little further by going to search. I searched up Nick.com or Spongebob.com, I believe at the time, and I saw a flash game called Mystery Train. So I decided to play it, and I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, honestly. And at night, I decided to fall asleep. So that's my basic story of how I got interested in the entire show, honestly, at a time. Sure, I was a late comer to the show, but honestly, better late than never. So you may be having questions, but I guess, I guess I can see if it can be confused. I guess I can see this being confusing to you because how does a baby be able to search up on a computer, honestly, or watch a single episode of a cartoon? Well, and my mom actually letting me watch SpongeBob at the time, so this was my first experience with the show, honestly. So it's better late than never, honestly. And when I heard SpongeBob, this was the first thing I thought of, honestly. Besides my mom, of course. And that's how SpongeBob became my main favorite show of all time, basically. So yeah, I know that it can be I know it can be confusing for some people watching this video, hear me say this, but to be fair, my mom is the reason why I actually got into SpongeBob in the first place. So I should thank her for that, honestly. Because heck, I actually own a whole collection of SpongeBob DVDs. You want to see it? Here's my SpongeBob DVD collection, basically. I own every season, including the recent season 15. Reminder, I got this DVD like just yesterday. Reminder, I got this DVD like literally yesterday, even though this was supposed to come out today, but I got it yesterday, I guess. And I've been watching season 15 a little bit of it. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun so far. Watching this entire season. On DVD, of course. Hold up, let me just... hold up, I gotta put it back in its case. So yeah, that's basically, yeah, so that's basically, trying to say it. So that's basically, so that's basically my story with the Great Patty Caper episode. And after 2011, this became one of my favorite episodes of the entire show so far. Well, up until Big Birthday Blowout took #1 spot for me. But still, I had a lot of fun watching this episode a lot. I used to watch. This was the season 7 episode. I watched the heck out of the much. I watched this one so many times. I watched this one so many times. I still watch it today, honestly. It's a very important episode to me, honestly, because this was the episode that got me into the entire series. So I have to thank this episode for getting me into the franchise, honestly. I know I spent 10 minutes talking about one episode, and I know that this was a backstory type of deal, but honestly, this was just an episode I watched over and over again, honestly. I can watch it every single time when it catches on Nick, honestly. So overall, I think this is a very important episode to me. So yeah, overall, I think this episode is really good. But that's enough of the story. Let's get to the actual episode. So the episode basically is about this. It's about SpongeBob and Patrick going on it after Mr. Krabs sends the Krabby Patty formula to Farawayville Bank, and after realizing that they need the formula to make Krabby Patties, he sends SpongeBob and Patrick to go on a train mission to get the formula back with a key, by using the key to get the formula back. Now, what did this special do compared to other specials of the show? Okay, so the first thing that this special does is that it handles its 22-minute runtime well. And I don't think this episode would have worked. I don't think this episode would have worked if it was 11 minutes long, because I think that making this a 22-minute special was a better choice, because I think it was a better choice to make it 22 minutes long, honestly. Sure, maybe there could have been some parts cut, but honestly, as a 22-minute special, this one works, honestly. So, and I will say also the mystery in this episode is pretty cool, honestly. Probably my favorite mystery of the entire show. Actually, no, that's a lie. Actually, it's tied with the Squid Noir episode. When it comes to mysteries of this show, I think this is up there with Squid Noir, honestly. Even better than that episode, honestly. So yeah, I think that the Great Patty Caper overall has a good mystery, honestly. Sure, I can say that Patrick having the key, looking back on that, that's kind of dumb. But I kind of find it ironic that he was cleaning SpongeBob's shorts earlier because apparently SpongeBob pooped. I'm assuming that's what the joke was supposed to be. But honestly, like I said, this joke is pretty funny, and I kind of like this joke, honestly. And also, one of my favorite parts of this episode is the part where SpongeBob and Patrick, um, basically like unmasks some suspects from the train, except for that lady girl, except for that one who calls the lady who calls him handsome, of course. Though what about though you're probably wondering what about the what was Plankton a suspect? Yes, he was. I think another thing I like about this episode is probably the is pretty much the scene where was trying to like squeeze the key out of Plankton. Honestly, that scene was pretty funny to me. A little weird, but pretty funny. Honestly, another thing I like about this episode is I think another thing I like about this episode is the setup. The setup of this episode is pretty nice. Honestly, the first few minutes of this episode is pretty good. Just like I said, the first few minutes are pretty good too. I mean, this special is already amazing as it is, so there's. I guess another thing I should mention is that another thing I really like about this episode is probably after when SpongeBob and Patrick gets pushed off the train. At least this really cool like scene where SpongeBob and Patrick has to get back on the train basically, and one of one of the best parts of that scene overall was probably when SpongeBob jumps off that cliff with Patrick, and that's Patrick is screaming for his life and begging SpongeBob that he hope he doesn't kill himself. That scene got a chuckle out of me, honestly. And then he turns into a hang glider, and and glides Patrick to the train. That is pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, honestly. That's a pretty good scene. That's a pretty good scene, in my opinion. But that's. But there's still more to the scene overall. Anyway, so another thing that I think another thing that is pretty good about this scene overall. Another scene I really like in this episode is probably the scene where Patrick goes tries to stop the out of control. Is actually the part where Patrick breaks the brakes. Not gonna lie, that scene got another chuckle out of me, just because of how stupid Patrick can be sometimes. I mean, I thought that was funny because it just seemed like he was being stupid, honestly. And I know he's already stupid, but that scene always gets a chuckle out of me every single time. And then the fact that he puts stuffs coals into the fire thing got also another chuckle out of me. And then it also has this, and the episode has this climax where they have to stop the out of control train from crashing into the retirement home. And let me just say, this scene is just genius. Absolute peak fiction. Probably the best scene out of all of season 7, in my opinion. Because of how action packed and how climatic it feels. I should play the clip, but I feel like if I do, then it's gonna break the scene for you. So I'll let you guys watch it on your own. I absolutely, and then Patrick has to find, and then they go through this after going into that one of the train stations thing. He basically go through this twisted trestles thing. You know what I mean? And then Patrick has to stop the out of control train from going crashing into the retirement home by using a stop sign, a not ink, a lemonade stand, and a freaking rock. That's what I call genius writing when it comes to season 7 standards. And then when they stops at the retirement home, and then Patrick has to just breaks another lever. Man, that whole scene is just absolute peak fiction in my opinion. Easy season 7's highlight, honestly. My favorite scene of any of the specials, honestly. I know this review has me barely talking about a lot of things in this episode, so there's actually a lot of twists in this episode besides the whole key mystery. Basically, there's another twist in this episode where Mr. Krabs appears at the bank before Plankton actually arrived. And when that train runs over Plankton, that's more satisfying than anything. Overall, this scene is just good, honestly. And the ending is really good too, even though it's kind of weird. It ends with so in present day it ends when Mr. Krabs have to pay for the damages that the train has caused to the bank, and it's him screaming no. And then basically transitions to this weird scene where SpongeBob where there's an elderly SpongeBob with a grandson, and basically telling this story about the whole episode. It can't believe it took him 22 minutes to actually tell the story, honestly. That's pretty ironic. But again, this scene is kind of weird in my opinion. This is the only flaw I actually have with this episode, besides the whole key mystery kind of being a little bit half-baked. Or should I say, feeling a little bit, I don't know, anticlimactic. But anyway, I think that's really it when it comes to the Great Patty Caper, honestly. Because I think most of this episode... Well, actually, there's one more, actually. So, there's a scene at the Krusty Krab where Squidward is being stuck there. And the customers are rioting against Squidward. This scene is unnecessary and should have just been cut from the episode overall. Not gonna lie. I mean, the fact that Mr. Krabs was not there was kind of crazy to me. I didn't even notice this as a kid, honestly. I noticed this now because I'm a teenager. Because I was rewatching the show since March. So, yeah. Anyway. Anyway. Another thing that this episode does is basically this. So, another thing that this episode does do, that compared to the other episodes, is that, like I said, I think this one handles its 22-minute runtime really well. And I think the main reason why this episode works is because it has all of the strengths of a SpongeBob special. It has good pacing, good use of locations, doesn't drag on way too long, and it also has the comedy and humor that I expect from a post-movie SpongeBob episode. And it's also from the dark era of SpongeBob, so this is one of the better specials that the show's ever produced overall. One of my favorites, actually. Even if season 7 may be one of my least favorite seasons of the show, I still think it's better than season 6 and 12, personally. So that's something. Anyway, I think that's really it when it comes to this episode, because I don't have much to say on. I did spend a little bit, I maybe spent a little too much time on backstory, but that's just me, explaining why I think this episode is very important to me, so that's why. And also, fun fact, I used to ride on trains a lot when I went down to Florida, so this episode is more nostalgia to me than anything, honestly. So yeah, that's my review of the Great Patty Caper. What's my overall score of the Great Patty Caper overall? I think I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Number 1 for season 7, and one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. I just don't know where I'm gonna place it though, because all of my favorite episodes are specials, so this is kind of what I expect. Anyway, so that's it. Man, I spent 22 minutes on this video too. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and I'll see you guys for a possible another episode, honestly. I'm not sure what I'm going to review next, but hopefully it will give me a good one. So I'll see you guys later, and Cartoon Retro Boys out.